and the quirkier side of life. The Todd Starnes Commentary.
Last week, I told you about a California school teacher who told a boy that Jesus was not allowed in public school. And now another California teacher has ordered a child not to talk about the Bible. A week before Christmas, a teacher in Temecula, California, told her class to bring something from home that represented a family Christmas tradition. First grader Bren Williams brought the Star of Bethlehem from atop the family Christmas tree. She explained to her classmates that the three kings followed the star to find the baby Jesus. At that point, the teacher ordered her to stop the presentation, demanded she return to her seat. The teacher told the poor kid she wasn't allowed to speak of such things in school. Now, the school declined to comment until they've sought legal counsel. I don't know about you folks, but I'm getting sick and tired of Christian boys and girls getting bullied by public school teachers. I'm Todd Starnes.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Brain rubs nothing but truth proudly on. Say it with me now. AFR Talk. How are you? Happy Wednesday. You sound angry. I'm not angry. I'm passionate. Hey, look. If you're not fed up with what's going on, if you are sitting there going, this is just, everything's okay. Everything's not okay. Now, I know who sits on the throne. But the bottom line is, we've been given freedom. And our rights come from God, whether President Obama or the statists want to recognize it. He is our creator, and we're not objects under statism as it is. We are unique creations in his image. And our freedoms are coming under assault, and people have had to pay a lot heftier price than merely organizing and supporting and making your voice heard to secure our freedom. So, if you're just getting involved in the process, if you've just turned on this broadcast, know this: God knows you, He created you, He loves you, and you're worth it. And you have these gifts and you have a purpose. And He has a plan for you. And I just think that's awesome. Excuse me, I know it's awesome. And as you get older, you realize how precious time is and how precious freedoms and the protection of freedom, how important it is. If you have children, you certainly understand what I'm speaking to, because that's immediate. I inherited 2 blessings, and wow, I thought I was already there. No, you absolutely are engaged in the world and how things are working. And yes, you have peace and security through the grace of Christ. Yes. But that doesn't mean you sit back and say, it's all gone, I'm quitting. I don't, because I know you're not like that. You wouldn't be listening to this broadcast. I bet each and every one of you had a dream at one point for what you wanted to do with your life. Now, the beauty of recognizing who God is to go to your Creator and say, hey, what plan do you have? Please tell me. Let me focus on it. Direct me. And in the recognition of that, you say, okay, well, what happens when you don't have the freedom to pursue what God has called you to do? Perhaps it's to transform our culture and transform our nation by being salt and light and speaking truth and love. Perhaps that way is abortion and fighting abortion and exposing abortion for what it is. Perhaps it's defending our nation from those who wish to destroy us and our allies, including Israel. Imagine if there's not a vision to defeat those people. There have been a number of things said in the war on terror that we are in, and it's war on Islamofascism, by the way. But one of the worst comments that has ever been made by the Senate Majority Leader, Harry Reid, and I would say a member of the United States government, while at war, while we are fighting a war, he said Iraq was lost. Remember that? Bob Gates does. And Bob Gates said, well, being interviewed about his new book, Duty, he referenced Harry Reid 2006's comment from Senator Reid. Roll it.
I think the troops knew the score, and the troops believed in the mission, and the troops believed and believe that they were being successful in their mission. And so I think they were able, to a certain extent, to set aside the politics here at home. Although, I make the point in the book, when you have somebody like the Senate Majority Leader come out in the middle of the surge and say this war is lost, I thought that was one of the most disgraceful things that I'd heard a politician say. That sends a riveting message to kids who are putting their lives on the line every day, that they're doing it for nothing, and that was absolutely not the case.
Believe that. If you believe the war is lost, then you go Dennis Kucinich on, and everything you do is about getting the troops home and defunding and doing whatever you can, if you truly believe that. I think it was disgusting that he made this comment. It was despicable. People can agree and disagree. Incidentally, the idea that we have a potential presidential candidate again who has been cited by Gates as politicizing the surge and the opposition to the surge was based on politics, as well as President Obama, which is disgusting. Nobody wants to say anything of regarding the war or to be very clear about that. That is absolutely despicable behavior and disqualifies our president and our former Secretary of State, in my estimation. Absolutely. I don't care if they were a Republican or Democrat. You politicize the vote. You don't vote your conscience. You don't vote what you believe is the very best for this country, but you sit there and oppose something for politics. You put politics on the altar of national security. Yeah, you're gone. It's done. That's it. Yeah, that is. Oh, well, you're saying you just disagree with the war, and that means you don't. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you're willing to put our national security and our troops on the altar of politics, you're gone. In the sense that, in my estimation, of being qualified to hold office. But the American people, we have elected President Obama. So they disagree. Doesn't change my point of view. Absolutely not. But I believe in a system that would expose these types of transgressions, moral and ethical. And I believe in a system that people would appreciate knowing a perspective like that if it were true. And Bob Gates says certainly true of Hillary and President Obama being on board for that. Now, he's walked it back a little. People are afraid to declare that. People are afraid because rather than take on the debate, the people that are defending this type of thing who have no interest in the truth, none. Their interest is to defeat the other side, to smear by any means necessary, in the sense of engaging in debate, but being misleading and being dishonest or trying to distort the whole conversation. Because the debate's not if you disagree with the war or the surge and you can't speak up. No, I encourage you to do so. The debate is if you make that calculation based on political advancement. That's the debate. And if anybody gets up and says, well, I think that I can defend that, well, call in. But don't tell me I'm speaking out against people who disagree with the war. Good people can disagree on policy and the very best way to defend our nation. I happen to be for the Iraq War. I was for the Iraq War. I continue to be for engagement in Iraq because I know sooner or later we're going to have to go back over there. I don't support President Bush's policies with just a blind writing of it, saying signing off on it. No. But I understood Iraq to be the threat. I understood our intelligence told us that. And I understood in the environment post 9/11, especially with the Iraq Liberation Act of 1999, he had to go. We're going to wait around. And that's what people don't understand. It's the consequence. It's what if he was already milking the system with the Oil for Food program. He already had things set up for chemical weapons. He had used them before, and people go around, and the people that made the very same statements President Bush did make called President Bush a liar for making those statements, even though they made them at the time or a year earlier. And that's pathetic. That's disgusting. And then accused the president of lying. So this brings me to the man who the movie Lone Survivor is based on. He was asked about his critics and his critics calling him pro-war. Now, last night, Megyn Kelly, I have not seen the movie yet. I intend to see the movie. But my best half and I, we do not watch political television. I don't listen to other people. I don't like it. That doesn't mean I don't think they're good. I think they're great. I think there are some outstanding radio talk show hosts, especially on this network. AFR Talk, big believer in it. Say, lock it in. That's why I talk about Dan Mancilia, Tim Wildman, or Bert Harper. Yeah, I talk about, and I can mention everybody. B-Man, I could go down the line. Sandy, here's the point. I don't do it because I don't want to sound like anybody else. I don't want to sit there and go, I'm going to repeat what other people say and not have my own opinion. And no. I also can get burnt out because I start my day at 5 or oftentimes 4:30 and I go to what we have now. And I thank you, Jesus, for that opportunity. I thank AFR and each and every one of you. But my point in telling you this is last night we're scanning. We're actually getting ready to watch Matlock. Actually, there's a new show we've gotten into, but Matlock, yes, we've almost watched every one of the Matlocks. That's what we do. Yeah, it's good. I'm done with Murder, She Wrote. I've seen every Murder, She Wrote. Great show. Nerd alert, stop it. I realize. Nevertheless, we were scanning and we saw this answer to this question of what retired Navy SEAL Marcus Luttrell had to say about his critics accusing him of being pro-war. And it was stunning, as you'll see and hear if you're watching, and if you're listening, you'll hear. Here is his response. Roll it.
We were talking, someone told me something about pro-war, and I sat and thought about it for a while, and I don't even know if that's, is that a real term? Because there's nothing glorious about war. There's nothing glorious about holding your friends in your arms and watching them die. There's nothing glorious about having to leave your home for 6 to 8 months and while your family's back here and you're away. Bottom line is that there's bad people everywhere, and every now and again we're going to have to step to them to make sure that we preserve our way of life. And it's people like my teammates and I that have to do that, and the men and women in the military. But there's nothing glorious about it. There's nothing pro-war. Nobody wants war. It's the most horrible thing in the world. Mm-hmm. I think that it was, if anything about the movie or about the story, it's that you go and you watch it, and it's about the brotherhood. It's about the guys who are willing to die for each other no matter what. It's about the Afghani village that brought me in, and that there's good people everywhere. It tells a lot of stories, I think, but I don't see pro. I don't even understand that term, actually.
This is what those who oppose you ideologically, or when it comes to the specifics of a policy, will say, or if you've been very clear and honest about the result of their policies, or have conjectured of what their motivations are behind their statements and policies. During the during the war, 2001, our invasion in November of Afghanistan, as well as 2003, there was not a time and an issue that I got more hate mail than in my advocacy for us going on the offense and confronting these. I actually wanted to take it up a notch. I want regime change in Iran. But I was always met with these straw man arguments and the accusation that somebody would be pro-war, which is asinine. And yet that is what they wanted to say and get out there, because it really takes away from people focusing in on what you truly believe. In that response, he spoke to the Afghan villagers and the people that he was trying to protect. When I say we go after our ideological enemies, or we go after our enemy, which is Islamo-fascists and organizations and the like, and I say domestically, I'm talking about empowering those that are reformers of Islam as well, like Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. But what people will repeat is, oh, well, you hate all Muslims. I mean, it's a ridiculous statement. You know who kills more Muslims than anybody else? Muslim terrorists. But I do believe that a society based on a Judeo-Christian foundation is far superior because of what it yields in liberty and freedom, as opposed to subjugation and tyranny, than any other culture, including one based on Islam. You get to weigh in on the flip side. Stay tuned for the AFN News, AFR Talk.